Hello, everybody. We're here. We have the honor to come and do an interview with Alex Ruelas, main president of the Dukes Car Club, and we're here visiting with him at his residence. How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good, thank you, Fernando. How about yourself?
Oh, okay, good. Yes. Now, the Dukes Car Club is a well-known name. Been in existence since 1962 or prior to that, right?
That is correct, 1962.
Your father and Julio Ruelas and a couple other members started the club back in the day, not knowing that the outcome or how it was going to become something big, one of the biggest car clubs in the world.
Yeah, the oldest car club in existence, and yeah, it was founded by my father, my uncle Julio, may rest in peace, Ernesto and Oscar, along with two other individuals, non-related, that were also founders as well.
Chivo he's still one of the members, and he's been in the club since day one, right?
Since actually 63, a year later, he was joined in, and he was actually approached by my dad, Ernesto, and Julio, and the word got around for him was a few guys from the neighborhood knew of Chivo, and they came to tell my dad and the brothers, hey, there's this guy out here, he's a bad guy. Not bad as in bad and good, but cool,
Right.
good dude. And one thing was about Chivo, he was not about himself, but he was anti-gangs.
Okay.
That's what made him so unique, where any gang tried to convert him, he would not join. In fact, he would fight, where he had like 15 or more guys that followed him.
Right.
So when he was approached by my dad, Julio and Ernesto, he said, well, what are your intentions? We want to start a club. This is what we're doing, getting together, cars, etc., etc. And so she was like, all right, I'm in. And when he came in, he brought in those 15 plus guys with him. So they were deep, and we're talking in 1963.
Yeah, Mr. Chivo, he's always been a good blessing to the club. He's
yes.
a good personal friend of mine. I love that man. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how the club, came to existence. And just reminisce a little bit about how it started. You probably was not born yet, was it? Or was it?
I wasn't. May have reincarnated later. As far back as I can remember, as far as reading magazines from way back, lowride magazines, and just hearing old interviews and just hearing my father and Ernesto and even Julio talk, obviously they grew up in the neighborhood South LA, the notorious 38th Street gang known as, for the very well-known Sleepy Lagoon murder back in the 1940s during the Zutsu riots. So in between all that, their Uncle Tinker had a couple body shops and big lot properties where he would take them to junkyards, get bicycle parts, go-kart parts, just buy all this miscellaneous parts. Here you guys go at it. And it was pretty much to keep them out of the gang activity.
He got them mechanically inclined. Your dad and Julio and the rest of the brothers got them started even before they started into cars and that. So
exactly. And my dad going to Carver Jr. at the time, he seen a car with hydraulics going up and down, and from there on, he was just in love.
Right.
And then from there, keep in mind, he was only 12 years old at the time, even though he was really young. But this man, I tell you, he could remember as far back as probably 3 years old. It may sound like I'm overreacting, but his memory was to the T of everything in line of how it happened.
Right.
And again, it was amongst the brothers, along with the two individuals. It was on 43rd Street, 2 blocks away from where they lived. It was in front of a friend of my dad's house known as Alfonso, aka Woody. He was a co-founder, and from there they wanted to, along with Woody's brothers, there were 2 individuals as well. I don't know their names, but they were in talk of wanting to start a club, and being that Woody's brothers already had a club not a while back, but sometime in the past, called the Roads.
The Roads?
The Roads.
Right.
And that's where they wanted to go with the same name, but my dad and the crew were like, we're not really digging it. So from there, they moved it down 2 blocks back where my dad and them lived. And from there, all right, it's obviously not going to be the Roads. We're going to change it up to something different. So looking through a magazine, they saw the Duke.
Okay.
All top hat, cane, suited up, and that's where the name
The
came
Dukes,
to birth.
that came, right?
Once that came about, then it was all right. We need an image. So a friend of theirs from the neighborhood, known as Samson, drew up as they know now as the Headless Creeper, and Dukes of LA was born.
Oh, the old original plaque.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
hmm
Yeah, that was the original plaque,
That was
right?
the original plaque, and because Julio was the oldest out of the crowd, he was nominated as president. Oscar Ruelas was the vice president.
Right.
And from there, it was just a matter of just them doing their own thing. At the time, my dad, at a young age, his first car was a '49 Chevy.
Okay.
Eventually, one time, he got rid of that, and he purchased the car behind me right here is this '37 Buick, purchased at the age of 14 years old.
This right?
Obviously, it didn't look like this then.
No.
He bought it from a gentleman who lived out in Southgate, and then it was like a light blue, baby blue color originally when he got it. So he had the shop already that their Uncle Tinker had, and they were already experimenting already, building bicycles, go-karts, stuff like that. So they had the tools, they had the welders. It was just a matter of just learning.
Right.
And my Uncle Julio worked at a furniture company where they sprayed and modified all the fancy wood for the furniture, couches,
Okay,
beds, you
right.
name it. So there he was able to get my dad 2 gallons of black lacquer paint.
Okay.
So that's where the black came to be for this bad boy. Eventually, within time, my dad was going to night school to learn mechanical engineering.
Right.
So with all these talents, going to welding school, all night classes, by the
Right.
way, he was able to modify this bad boy to hydraulics, body work, paint, and within a year or so, he's already cruising up and down the street.
Okay.
Buick Skylark wires, that was his signature wheel that he loved. He would switch them off from time to time. Kragers, Supremes,
Right.
the stocks, and this car, she went everywhere. This was my dad's pride and joy.
I was going to ask, how many chapters are in existence right now? I know we're growing and multiplying, so can you bring a little light into how many chapters there is and what you got going on with that? Because you're the international president, so.
Right now, we have currently 53 chapters. I'm actually currently working on a 54th chapter right now. When I took over the organization, unfortunately, the way of everything that happened with my brother. God
Right.
rest his soul. I was really under the impression at the time where, well, I was, because everyone would ask how many chapters. About 45 in there, maybe 48, give or take. I know a few have gone, a few have come back, a few have reopened. So finally, as we're about a year ago, just getting things ready, like for the 60th that we're preparing for coming up really soon, I finally had to have a sit down with myself. Like, how many chapters do we have? And at the time, it was 51, and this was a year ago. But then after, I opened up 2 more chapters, and again opened up a 54th one, and I was like, son of a gun! I didn't realize we were this big. I know we're big, but wow, 50.
Well, I know I became friends with what's his name from Sweden. I forget how to say it.
Magnus.
Magnus.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
and
nice
I've
guy.
seen him at the swap meet a couple of times, and we correspond back and forth through social media, you know.
Yes.
Sweden, so that's a long ways out there. And then you have 2 chapters in Japan.
Yes, we have Japan, which was originally opened early 2000s, and it was thanks to with the communicating of Tommy Drew's brother was helping out with that. Steve Cadillo actually as well, and Japan was opened up with Manabu, and then a few years later, then we opened up Central Japan,
Central Japan.
and
Right.
that was opened up by my brother Jason.
Oh, okay. And you started a chapter in Hawaii too, right?
Yes, we opened up a chapter.
That's
in
awesome.
Hawaii. Oh yeah, after my brother passed away, and that was the help of give credit where credit is due, Jacob Dominguez Jr., where he approached me. I got a guy I know who lives in Hawaii. He's inquiring about opening up a chapter. A really cool cat, and so met up with him at a little car show. He happened to be in town, and yes, very humble,
Right.
nice people, love him to death.
Right. I see some of their cruise nights and all the stuff they put together. They're cruising around the island. That's pretty awesome.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and they're wearing a Dukes shirt, brothers, and that's
Right.
awesome. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The Dukes have always been involved with the community and is one of our, main family-oriented club and do a lot for the communities, fundraisers and that.
Yeah.
Share a little insight on that.
As far back as I can remember, I remember my dad always did every year, along with when he started the West Coast Association with, I believe it was Group, Lifestyle, the Imperials. I forget offhand, there was quite a few clubs, and they would do the Toys for Kids drive every year at Huntington Park High. I do remember as a young age having shows there. Again, it was all for the kids. And one thing my dad always preached on was education. Education was priority to him. If you weren't going to school, you know what? Don't even waste your time with him.
Right.
Schooling was important to him, being that he came from a home very poor,
Right.
no father, and his education, as he said, was building cars.
Right.
Because at the time, he was saying his words, I was hungry.
Right.
I wanted to eat. So
Right.
I picked up a trade.
Right.
Going to night school, learning mechanical engineering. He would say, take the crow, park in front of the bungalows, lay his lifts down, and he's there doing his schoolwork.
Right.
But getting off track, yeah, he would do that. They even did like a fundraiser for a boxing club in East LA where they had special guest Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
My mom's got pictures of all that. They did a zoot.
I remember the toy drives they used to have in downtown LA with was it Mayor Bradley?
I believe so.
That they'd help him out and put this yearly toy drive with Toys for Tots and that, yeah.
And the good thing about now, we're so big. The chapters are always doing something of a fundraiser for the kids or helping out poor, giving out. We had South Phoenix a few years back. They had a can drive, giving out food. I mean,
I know Al from La Habra, he does quite a bit of
Yeah.
fundraising and events for the city and community.
he does.
I give him my heads up on that. He's good, and the whole chapter does quite a bit for the community.
And funny you mentioned Al in the La Habra chapter, him and a recent chapter I just opened, the Dukes and Paula's chapter, where there's just nothing but preferably from 58 to 69, 70, just strictly Impala cars.
Right.
Impalas. So
Right.
then they just had an event 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Where they had an Easter event, gathered a bunch of Easter baskets everyone donated, and passed them out to the kids.
Right. That's good.
Perfect example.
That's a good chapter too, right there.
Oh yeah.
Impalas, and they're going strong.
Oh, they are. I had a meeting with them when we first talked. It was kind of funny. Well, the president is my brother-in-law.
Right. Right.
And so I remember hearing stories from him. He would tell me he had a 64 back in the day, about 25 years ago. He frame up restorations, drove it everywhere, and he sold it to provide for his family and buy a house in Corona, which, great.
Right.
Did it for the right reasons.
Right.
But deep down in the heart, though, you know what? He loved bull riding. So whoever thought, this was before I met his sister.
Right.
And then years later, now we're married, and so he would say, though, he would consider getting another car, but his kids came first, college and whatnot. Like, totally respect that. Because they'll come up every now and then.
Right.
So finally, he pulled me aside. Well, he pulled another member aside from the San Diego chapter because they don't live too far from each other. Okay. And he's like, what do you think? Well, you think he will open up a chat? Alex will open up a chapter. And he's like, why don't you talk to him? I'm pretty sure he would. So he came to me one day, a little over a year ago, and he's like, have you considered opening up a chapter out where he lived, which is Menifee?
Right.
I was ringing in the bells, but then when he started talking more, he's like, I got a 68 Caprice that I'm working on. My cousin's got a 69 Impala. He's currently working on a 61 Impala. My other cousin's got a 60. It's all family,
all
by
that
the
Impalas,
way.
right?
It's got a 66, and a good friend of theirs, a compadre, he's got a 63. And then it clicked on me on a couple things where I remember the car club up north, the Impalas. And then another idea Jay and I were working on like 20 years ago. Unfortunately, maybe we'll still do it in the future. He always wanted to open up a G-body chapter, just strictly G-body, Monte Carlos, Cutlasses, El Caminos. So all that rang in the bell, and I said, you know what if I did an Impala chapter? What do you think of that? And he's like, you know what? More than likely, yeah, but let me talk with the guys. Before you know it, they were like, let's do it.
Right.
And when we had our meeting to make it official, they said, we're not here for any BS.
Okay.
We're going to come out. And
you're gonna do it.
They've proven it.
Right.
A lot. Where his car is almost done. It should be done actually for the Cinco de Mayo show in a couple weeks. And the cousin got a 69 and a 61 where he has both of them driven to the event. So he's bringing in two cars at once. And again, they got their other cousin who lives in up north at the moment, but he's going to be currently moving down a little bit closer, finishing up his 66 Impala. Then he has his cousin's son, who's currently getting his 69 Impala painted. So
they got a good lineup.
Oh, they do. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, putting a lot of other chapters, like, I don't want to say it a shame, don't take it personal, but you guys are going to have to kick it up a notch and start cracking that whip.
Right, that's right. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard because of the money involved, it's like you're 39 here. I know this project here is coming along, but it takes a while. You got to be a car guy to recognize that, to know, you can't lay everything aside and just say, 4-7, I'm going to work on it. It takes a while. And that's a part of our hobby. Your car's coming along. I can see the progress you made on it. And yeah, it takes a while. It takes money.
It does.
Family has to be first, we know, and our cars and our club second,
Oh yeah, and especially like for me, I unfortunately didn't inherit the gift and didn't learn too much of it other than being the gopher. My dad, he did everything from mechanics, hydraulics, full-on restoration, putting in the glass windows. I really didn't learn any of that, and then when my brother, he was taken from us, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
It was to the point I considered selling it. But then I had to sit down and think, you know what? He was determined for 2019 to have this car done.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? It's going to take me a little bit longer. I got to do some research. And the one thing I remember about my dad, if you're going to work on something, take pictures.
Right.
So when I took apart, well, not me, but my right-hand man, Rene Avalos, he came by, took care of this whole freaking front end off of me. Pictures of everything before, how it went on, because I forget.
Right.
Especially if I haven't worked on it in a long time. And so little by little, I get it takes time and money and
Right.
pushing myself. Thankfully, I have this just to bring up for now.
Right.
But my goal is for this in honor of my brother, and not only that, the car club, because you know what,
Right.
the car club, you guys put in a lot of work, and I
Right.
thank all of you for that. Because even though the club was founded by the family, yes, they kept it alive, but you know what? It took the organization though to keep it alive as well and
Right.
representing in the different cities. Japan, Inland Empire, San Bernardino,
Right.
Orange County. It took all that,
Right.
and you know what? It's a family
Yeah.
affair. I mean, we're all based on family, and
Right.
it takes us to all work together as one. And as I preach to a lot of the membership now, yes, we are chapters. However, though, when we go to an event, we're no longer chapters.
We're all
We are
brothers,
one.
right?
We're all one now. We're
Right.
just the Dukes.
Right. That's a good feeling. You know, you get all your Dukes brothers. You know, you go to one club or one car show, and you know, I went out to Albuquerque last summer, and I was treated, you know, by the Albuquerque Dukes, and
Yeah.
and then I think another chapter was out there from Utah. My
that's
mind,
right, yeah. Yeah,
and
Dukes
it
Strata.
and that was good. I mean, we communicate through social media, but to actually sit there with them and enjoy the car show, that was awesome.
Very
you know?
humble, nice guys.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
All of them. I mean, and that's the way it should be.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to get a few every now and then. One says black, one says yellow. But you know what? That's why we have these meetings to talk it out.
Right.
I mean, even at the president's meetings.
Right.
it happens.
Right.
But you know what? At the end of the day, we come together as one. After that, we have a good feast, and
Right.
we just BS and talk about good times.
That's
and
right.
What our plans are in the future.
So yeah, that's me. For myself, I'm a proud member for life. You know,
Appreciate that.
for being the Dukes Car Club. And it's, you know, I got my family, I got my girls, and everything else. But you know, the Dukes Car Club is one of my pet peeves. I mean, I'm in for life. You know.
I appreciate that.
Right. You know, I have my '59 convertible that, you know, we're doing a frame off restoration on it, and we were excited, like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Let's do this. Come on, we got to do this and this and that. And we got to realize that we had to slow that down because it cannot be a priority. You know, our family comes first.
Yeah.
Issues. We had a few deaths in the family, and you know, but. Yeah, so eventually I'm going to get it done, and I'll be proud to show it off, you know? So wear that Dukes plaque again,
Exactly.
you know? Every time I took that car out, I'd be there the night before buffing out my plaque and putting it back in there. Make sure I get no fingerprints on it and stuff, you know? Yeah, so, yeah.
That will come and stay. I let love slip away. Now all that I can say is here's a toast to a better day.
Man, I'm blown away by this running gear, how this engine, for as old as it is, it sounds so awesome, man. Listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
37 Buick with the original engine in it, still running.
Yeah. And it's funny, what you see in here is how he had it in the 70s.
Oh yeah?
No change to this whatsoever. The only thing is changed when he got the car in 1964 and during the late 60s. The interior was black Nagaheim.
Okay.
And he had it diamond tucked.
Okay.
Where in the 70s, early 70s, he had a reupholster to the pleat tuck and roll mohair like what is right now. This is the
Right.
original mohair that he had.
Right.
Unfortunately, from it sitting, it's kind of deteriorating here and there. where if you look at the back seat, I have it covered up. When he had it sitting in Southgate, the sun kind of ate the interior in the back.
Right.
Unfortunately, the rats kind of got in here and had a little party.
Right.
So, but my brother made the best of it. And even for today, it's still a showstopper.
Oh yeah.
And again, little steering wheel, chop column, all chrome, all done.
Yeah,
He didn't do it himself, but
that's a nice little setup. Because the original steering wheel will be
exactly, and then the column will be way up here.
Yeah.
And so just driving this car, when I first finally drove it, when I drove it to Whittier last year, was the first time we actually taking it out. I was like, whoa. One, please God, don't let nothing happen to the car. I don't care about me.
You're nervous.
Very. And so after, I'm like, damn, man, now I know why he never wanted to part with this car, because it was the luxury. Back then in the 30s and 40s, Buick was a high-class car compared to Chevy, considered the poor man's car.
Right.
And so when he got this car back then in the 60s, when he purchased it, a lot of the guys from the neighborhood made fun of him. Oh, you're too small for that car. But when he had it finished and he took him around the block, oh, damn, like, this car runs freaking good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to the point where when he was drafted into the Army, this car did not stay at home. He had it stored away from a good personal friend, I forget the name, 2 blocks away from his house, where he had a long driveway and a little garage in the back, where his friend stored it there, covered it. My dad put it on jack stands, just connected the battery, where it sat for a little over a year, because my dad was in the service, and unfortunately, my dad toured Vietnam. He didn't stay for long, though. I mean, unfortunately, he went AWOL, He came back. He just couldn't take it no more, which you have to look at it back then of what they seen. He was exposed to Agent Orange, unfortunately. But the first thing he came to was, where's my car?
Okay,
So the first thing he did was got to his friend's house.
Where's the crow?
Where's the crow? Uncovered it, put new gas, put a new battery, started right up once again. His brothers didn't even know where the car was at because he feared of them selling it.
Taking it out.
Exactly. And anyone, God forbid, trying to steal it, because the car was broken into in the late 60s at one time. They broke the wing here and they broke the gear. So the wing doesn't open, unfortunately.
Okay.
And one thing about these cars, they were so luxury back then, it had its own lock and steering right down here.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. So when you lock it, you couldn't flip the switch or anything to start it.
Imagine that.
And so exactly, they wanted to take the whole car, but they you see the little chip right here where they tried it. My dad never fixed it, and so what they took was his record player and a color bar he had.
Okay.
But
this is a record player here.
That is a Norelco.
Okay.
I always like that one because it's a little different compared to the RPM, I think it is. RPM. I forget. I'm going to brain fart right now. But the normal 45 record player, you know what I
the
mean?
45, right?
Yeah, because this one reminds me of a CD player. You just put it right in, and he got that for years.
Right.
But he ended up finding out who actually took his merchandise, and he went down there and demanded his stuff back. But unfortunately, they had sold it. But he got the money at least for what they sold it for.
They made it not right, but they paid it back.
Exactly. I know my dad, always preached on education and whatnot, but back then it was a different time where, he was from the neighborhood, 38th Street, and you had to survive.
Right.
You had to do what you have to do, and that's who he was. But deep down, his heart was always with the cars.
Right on.
Always. And driving this car, even for me, it's like, I never thought in a million years, I'm like, well, I'm driving my father's car.
Right.
Even for my brother, where he was like, it's finally mine, because even when it was promised to Jay, my brother, it wasn't promised to him just on a handshake. It was through blood, sweat, and tears, and the condition he had to have a garage for it.
Right.
So my brother, at the rightful age of 23 years old, he got in as a longshoreman, thankfully, and so saved up a little bit of his money. My dad helped him out, purchased his first home in La Habra, and that's where, here are the keys, the car's officially yours.
Oh, wow.